Thank you so much, Olivia, for joining us here today. For those who do not know, my name is Tim Horgan. I'm the Executive Director of the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization working to help people go from global awareness to global understanding. And we're really excited here today to have a quick interview with one of our newest interns, Olivia Chamberlain, who comes to us from UNH in Durham, who's joining us to talk a little bit about how her initial interactions with the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire, particularly our Drinks and Diplomacy podcast, has helped her to better understand how the world works. So welcome, Olivia, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So can you just give us a little bit of background about how you came to the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire, how you found out about us, and why you wanted to be an intern with us?
Yeah, so I think I've always kind of had this innate curiosity about different cultures and different societies, and I kind of never really explored that in a formal sense. And then a few years ago, I got the opportunity to go to Europe. And I remember being in this little town called Vern, Belgium. And it was just such a cool experience. There weren't tourists around. It was very, very quiet. And I really felt like I was walking into this other world I didn't know. And it kind of sparked a chain of curiosity where I wanted to understand how different societies and cultures and eventually governments interact with each other. And then as I went through college, I kind of became more interested in the academic and political side of international affairs. And I was researching how to get started with that. And I discovered World Affairs Council of New Hampshire, and they took interns. And so I contacted him, and that's that.
Great. And I know you're studying national security, but one of the things that you felt like you needed a little bit more of an understanding of is just sort of those international affairs, the way things work.
Right.
And so we had you listen to our 9-part series, the Drinks and Diplomacy podcast, because we invented that, created that as a way for people exactly in your position to get a better understanding of how things work, what key terms are, how to understand different things. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience listening to that program and how it may have shaped your thinking around some of these key issues?
Yeah, so I think that the main takeaway I had throughout my entire experience was just how accessible it made the field feel. I think when you're approaching an interdisciplinary, very broad subject like international affairs, it can feel very daunting. And I wasn't really sure where to start or what I needed to know before entering. And so when I started listening to the podcast, and each episode is very concise and to the point, engaging, entertaining, and covers one subject per episode, it really made it feel so much more accessible as a listener, and I felt like I was actually learning and retaining and enjoying and being a part of each discussion rather than just a third party participating from afar.
Well, I'm glad that you felt engaged and entertained by it. That's what we're really going for in
Yeah.
sort of the drinks part of it to welcome people
Yeah,
into
I really
the
loved that
conversation.
part.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite episode or something that really stood out to you while you were taking a listen to these different episodes?
Yeah, so I think that the impact of exchanges episode really stood out to me because, when you're talking about different systems and different cultures, you're usually discussing them as what they are, and not having to merge together. And so when you're talking about having somebody who experienced one culture their entire life suddenly enter another, and even just I remember, I think Janine Branch was the guest on the episode, and she was talking about how certain visitors wouldn't know to go make their own food because in their culture that wasn't what you did. You waited for somebody to serve you or discuss a meal. And so it's the little intricacies of each culture that we just take for granted when we're living at home. And it really shows how different everyone lives depending on where you are on the globe.
Yeah, one of the things that I really love about those exchanges, having worked with them for now over 17 years, which is crazy to me, but is that we are all the same. We all want the same
Yeah,
thing. We may be facing challenges of a different nature or a different magnitude, but really we want a better life for ourselves, for our family, for our communities, and being able to bring people here to New Hampshire for those kind of conversations and to share what they learned from their own countries has been really powerful. As you went through the different podcasts, did you feel like they built upon each other? Could you listen to them independently? Was it something you had to sit down and really be focused on for 4 hours, or is it something that you could take as you had time?
Oh, I could listen to them each independently. I think I did listen to a few out of order and really, I don't think there were too many references to other episodes that required you to understand what you were talking about. And I think that I was able to really listen to them on a commute, in the car, while I was working on something else, or just listening strictly to the material. And because of the pacing and the way that the content itself is interrupted by like casual discussion and it's so conversational. It was very easy to keep up with the material and not feel like you're missing out or like you can only focus on that or you're not going to miss like you're not going to understand any of it.
So do you feel like it served you well as you continue your time here with the World Affairs Council and start to think more about your future careers and the options that lie ahead?
Absolutely. I think that it was very great introduction to world affairs and it helped kind of solidify exactly what defines the field. I wasn't quite sure all the different parts, and I'm still not quite sure all the different parts, but I think that it really provided me a great introduction, and I have a better idea of the different subtopics within it in a way that I just understand the terminology that it exists, even if I can't articulate every definition and things like that. Um, I feel more competent in relevant conversations.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. Who would you recommend listens to this podcast, and what do you think they should expect to get out of their investment of time?
Well, I think that one of the biggest parts of what made the podcast so successful, and for me personally, was the fact that it's not super deep, super dense, and comprehensive. I think that because of that, it really is geared towards people who might have a vague understanding of the international affairs field, or maybe none at all, but really easing them into it, helping them understand what it means and what goes on within the field. And I think that anyone who already knows a lot about international affairs would enjoy it as well because it's just a fun listen and you can always learn more. But I would definitely say that it feels geared towards people who don't have much of a background at all in the field.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. One final question for you is, what do you think is the path forward? What are you most excited about for getting deeper involved into international affairs? And can you talk to us a little bit about why you think other people should get more involved in global discussions like we host here at the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire?
Yeah, so I'm very excited to kind of go back to each episode and listen to it and then continue on with my research and have that be my segue into deeper understanding and more elaborate reading of denser materials now that I feel more comfortable with it and truly just expanding my knowledge overall with the field and everything that goes on within it and relevant events today and how it relates to that. One of the main things that also stood out to me listening to the podcast was really how we are all human and we are a global society. And these aren't issues that are completely distinct from us. We're all a part of this system and we all drive these issues and we're the ones who help solve them. And, the laptop I'm using right now is international trade. So we are all connected through that. And it's important to understand what goes on in our globe. And I think that the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire is a really great place to start because it isn't expecting you to have pre-existing knowledge. They don't expect you to be an expert in the field before you come. And that's really beginner friendly and it makes it so much more welcoming and less daunting.
Well, I love that. That's what we're really trying to share with our communities. So thank you so much for your time, Olivia, for your
Thank you.
interest, and really excited to see what sort of projects you pull off over the next several months as we work together.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone here who watched this. If you want to learn more about the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire, the various programs that we run, and how you can get involved in going from global awareness to global understanding, check out our website at wacnh.org. Have a great day.